lot of people ask me about it, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, is it any good? So I thought I'd do a video on my opinion of it. Just before we start this video, I would just like to say that I'm not, what's the word for it? I don't know, I've forgotten, never mind, edit it out, no, okay, we'll keep going. Oh yeah, I've remembered. I'm not endorsing this product, they've not paid me for it, yada yada yada. This is just my opinion of this welding set that my dad bought me, like 7 years ago. Yeah, so look at my dodgy looking little welds for a moment, and here we go guys, welcome to the review. Quick little video today. I'm tidying up after doing like a main project. For me, I try and put everything back. I just about to put this little set back, and I thought, a lot of people ask me about it, and a lot of people say, oh, you know, is it any good? So I thought I'd do a video on my opinion of it. I've had the set now for about 7 years. I've used it to weld up metal as thin as 1mm mild steel and as thick as about 15mm, I think. Might be 16-17mm. But obviously you've got to channel it all out and like root it in and then cap it off and that. The set itself spends most of its time on 80 amps, whacked up full, and I have used this thing all day long for weeks at a time, constantly every day coming out, turn it on, weld all day with it, full whack, rod after rod after rod, and I've never made this thing overheat, so I don't know what his duty cycle is. I imagine it's possibly written somewhere amongst that mumbo jumbo there. Yeah, 60%. There we go. Oh. So if I'm reading this right, it's 60% at 80 amps or 100% at 62 amps. So it's got a bloody good duty cycle on it, really. I've never made it overheat. 7 years of using it. Let's talk about the cables. Now, yeah, mains lead isn't too bad. It's about 2 meters long, maybe just over 2 meters. We'll say 2 meters. You know, it's not a set made for running around your entire workshop. I've just realised I missed it. The leads are also 2 meters long. Both your stinger and your earth are your little is it quarter turn or 1/3 turn? Anyway, they're quick release type. I have reversed them at times, so made the torch, the stinger and the stick, my neutral, my workpiece alive. That helps weld and finish stuff. I burn my rods right the way down when I'm welding because I'm tight and like to get the most out of them. Still the original stinger. I don't know if you can see that from there. It's a little bit melty, but it's not bad. It's still solid. And the earth lead, unlike other sets I've used in the past, the earth lead and the cable for the earth clamp is still like new. Granted, I'm saying that, but this is only an 80 amp set. You might say, well, I'll tell you now, I've got a 135 amp set MIG welder in the shed by a different unassociated company that I've bought, and the earth clamp itself has completely burnt the cable away from the material. It had also burnt off between the coil and, well, it burnt off at the point where the coil met the earth lead, where it was like solidly crimp fitted, I think you'd call it. So yeah, although this is only an 80 amp set, I think it's an 80 amp set that is built for purpose, in my opinion. They've not gone with really thin cables or anything like that. Maybe these are cheap cables, but they handle a load. I mean, what more can I say about it other than this has been a very, very reliable set. Very reliable. Typically I run between 1.2, I think it is, rods for thinner stuff. Also, if I really want to burn into a weld, I'll put a 1.2 in at high ampage and just proper like ram the wire, well, the rod into it, into the weld to like cut in nice and deep, burn it in. And I got up to about 2.4mm rods with this set. It doesn't say anything on the top of it about rod size, so it may or may not be within its capability scales or whatever. It might even be able to go thicker, but 2.4 and 1.2, and I think there's like 1.6 or so, something like that in the middle of it that I've used as well. So anyone who is looking at this set, because it's almost coming into time when Lidl's get them in, right? Parkside. It's not a TIG set. Welding thin metal takes a little bit of finesse, I suppose you'd say, but you can weld down to about 1mm with it, and I imagine if you backed it off, you could probably go down maybe 0.8. It will weld 6mm quite happily. Might need to do 2 passes depending on like if you've prepped it out or if you're like really want to penetrate through fully. Like I said, I've done about 15mm with it, might be a little bit, and from memory that was, I routed it in, then ran, I think it was 3 successive passes back over the route, and then capped it off with 2 welds. So, you know, that's 6 runs in 15mm steel, and it was very strong. That's really all I can say, I guess. Apart from one more thing, I've used many different brands of stick electrodes. I can't say like, you know, cellular stick and non-cellular stick, bloody all that lot, because I just weld with what I got normally. It's only when I was at work doing special stuff that I ever paid attention to what I was like using for filler rods or wire or electrodes and that. When I'm working at home, typically anything will bloody stick 2 bits of metal together. But I have found that with the Parkside electrodes, they are my favourite electrodes to use. 2 reasons. I guess it comes down to 2 reasons. One is initially taking the rod out of the packet, they have sort of tapered the ends, taken a bit of the flux off the tip, so as you can strike up the arc straight away. Every pack I've ever had, and I've had a lot of packs of them, potentially hundreds of different packs of their electrodes, straight away it always starts the arc up nice and easy. You know, sitting there chipping away at it or having to scratch it, because that's irritating as hell. And the other thing I've found that I really like about their electrodes is the burn back rate when you come away halfway through a rod. I've used some where the material burns back so far into the flux that you've got sort of say a 2mm rod, and it's about 4 or 5mm burn up the electrode with the flux over the front of it. Sometimes that's alright because you can just flick your finger over it. Other times I've found a lot of the time it tends to create like actual slag ball over it, which is kind of hard and resilient, and you've either got to sit there and clip it off or, you know, find a sharp edge in that. With the Parkside electrodes, I've never had either of those issues really. I've also had packs that I've had open in the shed for a year or more that I have completely left exposed to the elements and everything. I've gone and struck up with them, arced them up, and they weld beautifully. And that's even with the plastic wrappers broken. So my 2 pence would be this is a really worthwhile set. I think my dad paid about £40 for this, just to shut me up because I was moaning that I had a hole in my chassis of my car and I needed to weld it and I had no welder. That was a long time ago. I've had this set for like 7 years, so it's long before I had all the other gear I've got, and it's been perfectly reliable. Great set. Okay, 80 amps, not overly powerful, but for DIY use it is excellent. If you want to go make some waste oil burners or do a little bit of what do they call it, like wall art for your garden, ideal. And the Parkside electrodes are by far my favourite electrodes I have found thus far to use, especially at the price. I've used some electrodes before that are mega money, and yes, they lay a nice weld, and yes, they've got other certain properties, but for the hobby use, for DIY, for sticking some bits of mild steel together, you can't beat the Parkside ones. That's all I've got to say. So next time you come round, Ray, asking me about bloody MIG welding and arc welding and stuff like that, just check the YouTube channel, mate. Same as some of my other friends who come round. I might edit it out. Even my TIG set can do stick welding, obviously. That was a moderately higher end scale. I don't know where it come in, it still work. It's like £1,200 for a TIG set, for the Dare TIG set I got, and I still keep this out for whenever I stick. And I probably will still keep it out when I'm stick welding, unless I'm welding something up real thick and I get the 180 amp out one, just because I don't want to run so many beads on a job. It's a good buy, guys. I recommend it. Like and subscribe. Unfortunately, someone cocked up and didn't lock the tube in the donkey saw hard enough. So I have been, as you can see, weaving some pretty thick welds to fill in this gap.